Awesome, blossom. Okay, let's get this party started. So, I've said enough about myself. So I work as a web manager within the College of Engineering at Georgia Tech in sunny Atlanta, Georgia, although we are actually cooler than it is here today and tomorrow. So I brought a little bit of my weather with me, and I apologize for that. Okay, you're not here. I also am the project lead for our WordPress multi-user called Professional Web Presence. If you're curious about it, want to see the documentation, the front-facing website, all the resources we have available, it's at pwp.godtech.edu. So, I don't know that I need to explain a whole lot about WordPress MU, but I'm going to give you a very general overview of what that service is and what the permutation of WordPress is for having multiple sites under one installation. So that's pretty much what multi-user or MU is. It facilitates one code base, so one set of files and folders that allows you to host multiple websites. It allows those plugins, themes, libraries, user accounts all to be shared, so we're not reinventing the wheel per site for all of our websites. It allows for as automated as possible as needed WordPress site creation. And of course, that's awesome because it gives the power to our end users and the folks that have access to create websites, which is great. And for a lot of our smaller websites across higher ed, it's great to empower the end users themselves to create the websites they need. So, who in this room is currently using WordPress MU on their institution?
Are you using this synonymously with WordPress multi-site?
What is the difference between the two?
I think MU is the old name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm showing my age now.
No, it's okay. Like, I know you said MU, but I use multi-site.
Okay, well, so whenever you see MU, replace that with multi-site. And I'm going to have to do a find and replace after this session. Who here is running their own installation, sort of from the ground up? Okay. Who's using Campus Press or another service to do so? Wow. Dang, y'all are... Yeah, so we've actually just started talking about that as well as moving from one place to another, but I did not expect that many hands to be a do-it-yourself. So how's your experience with multi-site WordPress been so far? Okay. Anyone want to give a quick 30-second synopsis of what y'all are using it for and the numbers you're trying to get with the sites you have?
I'll be talking about ours tomorrow.
Ooh, spoiler alert. Nice.
Just starting out, but the use case is exactly what you described for yours.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's very similar.
Yes.
We're from Washington State University, so that's primarily our lead CMS for the university. So
Wow.
we've got 64 networks and about 3,000 sites distributed on those networks. Wow.
They can't hear the questions in the back.
Okay. Should we? Could you repeat that one more time?
Okay. My name is Dan Blau. I'm from Washington State University. So we use the WordPress multi-site as our kind of lead CMS for a lot of our public sites, and we've got 64 networks, 28 to 3,000 sites.
So Washington State has a number between 2,800 and 3,000 websites over 64?
64 different networks. So we do multi-network.
Multi-network. That sounds crazy, but awesome. I'm not going to go that detailed, but I envy you and the work that you're doing. So for what I think of WordPress multi-site is that it's great for those low complexity websites that we on campus and we as campus users work with. Primarily, my campus runs primarily Drupal. And how many folks have used Drupal in the audience? Can someone give a quick synopsis of what they feel about the Drupal user experience for creating content? I got thumbs down. I got people laughing. It's complicated, and it's very developer focused for developer kinds of content, very complex data. That's what I love about WordPress is the other way is these smaller websites like personal websites, blogs, event-centric websites, the labs, centers, and groups that, especially if you're at a research institution, we have a whole lot of. All of those don't need that complex Drupal backend or that ton of complexity for what is simple, informational content for our end users, whoever they may be. So there's a hidden side to that, and I'm sure all of you that are running your own installs know about this, and it's what happens as those websites come together. A faculty member creates 5 websites in 2014. leaves the institute or leaves your university in 2017. And where are those websites in 2019?
Still
Still
there.
there.
Still there, still active on Google, still being found with all the wonderful file uploads, images, content that's there. So this is probably the million-dollar question, but how do you actually give your users the power to, one, keep their content up to date, go through their websites and see if they actually need the dang thing, update their websites or audit them to add in new administrators to pass on the burden to additional folks, and remove the websites that they're not using. Now, you could try to something like documentation and communication. How many folks have tried to empower your users that way to remove websites they're not using? How would the experience have gone with that? Thumbs down, shrugs. That's about what I would expect. With technology comes that kind of, if it's not a fire to put out, it kind of gets sent in the very back of the queue. These things are helpful, but they're not exactly going to push our users to make that happen. So these are a lot of passive solutions that you're sort of passing the buck onto the individual users and each individual website to do the work and to figure out what that work means. And as you might expect, for the 3,000, 2,800 website range on all your network to networks, those probably don't scale very well to actually keep those sites up to date. So what we at Georgia Tech was thinking was, well, that's not really going to work. And as we found, there were a bunch of websites that weren't really aging very well. Our themes were running out of date. Our plugins maybe weren't being used as often. We were finding a bunch of legacy websites with users that no longer exist. So why not looking for a more active solution and a process that allows us to go through, empower our end users and our administrators for the sites to do what they need to do to make sure they want this website, and then leverage our work as the network and multi-site owner to control messaging, policy, and procedure for making sure those websites are actually the sites that are being used and administered on our campus. So we created this really simple solution that's just a quick little plugin that handles this task and administers it. And the plugin's only one part of our solution, but it's super simple. And I know that name doesn't mean anything to you because it's got Georgia Tech on it with the wonderful GT, but, oh no, where's the code? Ah, there it is. So I'm actually sharing the code with you of our tiny, tiny little plugin. We have it as part of github.com/the name of our product, Professional Web Presence. And we created a quick repository for our GT renewals plugin. And of course, this is where I add the caveat. This code is provided as is. Coding and web development are part of my duties. I do social media, podcast editing, all the things in between. So I'm not sure if I can provide 100% support for this, but we at Georgia Tech can help you get your product or a similar fork or evolution of this product off the ground if you have any questions. So we developed a plugin to manage our site updates to give the site users the ability to basically confirm that they're still using the website. What we are doing is we're doing active ownership checks we're doing it at yearly intervals for each website within the network and the multi-site. So we're leveraging these checks to confirm whether the website is actually needed, whether the administrators on the site actually still want that website, whether it's actually relevant, and that they know that the website's actually owned by them. You would be surprised how many emails we received on a website they did not know they owned. In addition, for them to update and check the administrative contacts and roles for their website, and then, of course, the confirmation that they actually know which websites are in their buckets. And it provides an easy, simple, drop-dead gorgeous renewal method. So we approach renewals around two different silos. On one silo, it's an entire semester-long opportunity for faculty members, graduate students, staff members, and all the user roles on our campus in between to log into their website and click the renew button. That's it. Semester long. Then, the next semester, we leverage the additional semester to find those bad websites which were not renewed and do a little bit of fact finding on those to make sure they actually have folks that are still on campus, to see if anyone would like to adopt them. And then we go out and cull them, delete them forever, get them outside of our service as they no longer have someone to provide ownership to them. And as part of this process, you might expect, what's the glue that allows all of this to stick together? And it's all about communication, of broadcasting due dates, who we're sending emails and communication out to, how we're doing public broadcasting to the wider community, whether it's a wider swath of communicators or IT professionals, and all those folks that are auxiliary roles to the folks that are building these websites. And then, of course, to provide these public, very visible blog posts and updates that can be repurposed across our campus for the silos and subject matter experts across our campus that consume this service. Trying to get the word out as much as we can without blasting a mailing list that goes out to every single person on our campus, which we will never have the access to do. So, our strategy in a nutshell is, number one, build a low complexity WordPress plugin. We want it to be simple, do one thing, which is renew the websites and check to see if the person has confirmed the website. And then for us to develop and facilitate a renewal communications plan to confirm that the folks who are listed as the administrator for that website are actually the ones doing so. And then project plan the milestones and delivery dates for those iterations to check to see what happens when a website is renewed, when it's not, and when to start removing those websites. So, this is where I give big shout outs to the other half of what has made our project work. We have a PHP guru. I'm so happy for him. Kevin Pittman, in one of, so I am in an academic unit. My colleague Kevin Pittman is also in an academic unit. Our WordPress multi-user, multi-site service does not have anyone from a central IT or communications product within it. So we manage this from the academic side to help out all of campus, not just our units. Kevin, fortunately, has been the glue that has allowed a lot of web development to happen and to figure out a lot of those nuts and bolts coding work. So if you want to learn more about the subject matter expert behind the coding that went into this, I strongly recommend you visiting the website that he runs, which is webdev.iac, we love our acronyms, .gotech.edu, where he discusses a lot of his work, as well as some of the philosophies he does when he does his web development. He's a fantastic asset to our campus and has helped make this work. So, at the end of the day, here's what renewal looks like for our end users. They go to their website. In this case, there's a website called Eric Sembrat is a wonderful presenter. Something I'm sure you all confirm with. When they log into their website, they receive a dashboard block at the very tippy top that says, hey, time to renew this website. And all that's there is a quick introduction to the process itself, when the due date is, why you need to do it, and then there are two buttons. One button allows the renewal, another walks through the process of deleting a website as the end user has the ability to delete the website to which they own. So, they have that due date, beautiful, easy to see, very transparent, first sentence of the second paragraph, and then the renewal buttons. So, once they click that, boom, it's done. They've renewed their website. Task over, the website's confirmed. Now on the administrative backend, we have that reflected there. That's all the end user needs to do to make sure that their website is confirmed. And that's awesome. It makes it super simple, super quick, and allows the end user to confirm that they have access to the website, they can log in as an administrator, and they can renew their website so that we know they still have access to it. And of course, one thing that we noticed during our first iteration is that sometimes we have end users or administrative users that have very many websites to their account. So in a siloed installation, like what you see in higher education, different units manage creating websites different ways. As we found out in our pilot, some faculty members create their own websites, so they only manage one or two websites. Some faculty members go to their IT professional to request that website or have them be the primary admin for them. So the IT professional, IT manager, has something like 20 sites underneath. We wanted to facilitate that renewal process within the My Sites link dashboard on the administrative side as well. So as you can see, there are quick renewal buttons on each of the websites that have not been renewed. And of course, it's basically the same language that you saw on the other side with quick buttons for it. Now, on the administrative website, all we can do, and it's super simple again for what this plugin does, either turn it on, turn it off, give it a due date, and then delete the data that's there. And then, as a side effect of that, what we wanted to do is give a primary place of actually seeing that data placed. So we took that sites table that we see when we're on the dashboard for the multi-site and just attached 2 different fields to it. When it was renewed, a timestamp, and then which user did it, so we know which user to blame or thank for doing the update. And so, just like with any other column, we can just add that in there, and we have that populated there for each site that's there. So, as you might expect, we want the administrators to be the ones to update their website, not the editors. We want to make sure that they have someone there that can manage every facet of that website for that multi-site bucket. So, in addition, we only want one user to do it. If they have multiple admins, there's no reason why each admin needs to go in there and do it. And this really gives us that confirmation and sanity check that there's someone that still has an active campus account that can access that website and renew it. Because for our service, we allow only our campus login there. We don't need our faculty members to remember a new password or create a less complex password. And it allows us to facilitate things like 2-factor login and the other good stuff that our campus has taken advantage of to increase security. So, as you might expect, and we've all worked with end users, sometimes our end users want us to do the work for them. So we received, I would say, quite a few emails that had asked us to do the renewal for them, or to say that I would like to renew this website without actually reading the email that was there. As part of that, we developed some boilerplate response that basically empowered back the user to allow them to renew their own websites. This also gives them some experience with the WordPress backend or the dashboard for their website, if they're unfamiliar with it or don't use it regularly enough to be familiar with how it works. So we're using that as a 2-step method. 1, to remember how to log in, because that happens more often than I would like to see. And 2, to get them comfortable with the experience to see what they can do with it. In this case, we just want them to click the renew button. And then, like I was mentioning earlier, all that plugin does is take a little site renewal block, toss it at the very tippy top so that no block goes above it. And then we also sideload that into the My Pages, just like I was showing you with the screenshots. And then, of course, really all we want to collect is the timestamp that it happened to see that when we can report that the renewal actually happened, whether it happened after an email, whether they were proactive and logged in before we announced it and renewed it as soon as they saw it, and then who did it, so we know who to blame or who to thank. And that's it. Except for some quality of life CSS to make it look pretty and more apparent to our end users, that's all this plugin does. But that's not all the work that this process needs to do. There's a lot more work that, yes?
Can I ask a quick question about
Sure.
how the plugin works?
Sure.
So do you have anything in place where an editor might log in and see that it needs to be renewed and that they should contact their administrator? So I know sometimes we get people who, the admins never log in, they just have people who are editors who do all the work.
Yeah.
The admin would never see it.
So we don't at the moment, but it'd be super easy to do so simply because we know what the role of the user is on that individual site. So that would simply be an additional role check and an additional block that could perhaps list the admins for that site and let them know to contact them to renew the website. That's actually a really great suggestion because it sounds like y'all have a lot of cases like that. And so I know from our experience, we have similar cases like that where faculty members or labs or centers may rely on that IT person to manage that. And when they log in there, they may not know that that process is there because that block by access is only going to the site admins when they log in presently. Yes?
That's a really good idea. Are you guys open for a pull request that would actually do that?
So the question is, are we open to pull requests to do that? Yes.
Cool. All right.
One of the things that I love about this distributed web development is the ability for us to share the code and give back. And so it's something that we don't do enough of in higher ed and something that sometimes may be a little difficult for us. But if you feel so inclined to add that functionality or take a stab at it, I welcome that kind of collaboration. That's awesome. So beyond the code and the nuts and bolts, the ones and zeros, a lot of what we do and the real strategy to make this work is how we actually manage this project for the timelines, communications, and how we actually go through the site deletion process. And so now into the fun stuff, the nitty gritty. So the timeline for this project ended up being about 9 months for our first renewal process. In August to September, we enabled the plugin and started communications on actually talking about the renewal process. As faculty are leaving for the semester and planning their December vacations and getaways, at the end of the semester is when the site renewals were due. But we actually knew that the likelihood of someone forgetting about it in December for folks that are dealing with finals, leaving the country, we ended up pushing a little bit to January, giving that little leeway for that last minute changes. In January, all the sites that weren't renewed were archived. And then in April 2019, we ended up deleting those archived websites. Who's experimented with the WordPress interface for multi-site for archival and actual deletion? It's not very well documented, is it? Yeah. So we learned that as part of our process is that when a site is archived versus deleted are two entirely different things. And I think I'm talking about this in the future, so I'm going to shut my mouth real quick. Yeah. So as part of this, September and January are two major focal points. One, of the first semester of managing the actual renewal process, and then in January, working for those outliers that didn't renew to find out why, if we can find the owners, and to find that website a home, or delete it. And all of those have due dates associated with them. We don't want to delete those websites immediately because we all know faculty will go through their emails in March that they got in January and decide that that is the most important email on March 22nd when they received it on January 1st. So giving that kind of process works around all of our schedules and allows that very flexible time frame for folks that are out of the country, working at another institution abroad, having a workload for additional other duties is assigned. Take advantage of all those things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And of course, these are split up into two areas like I've been mentioning. I just wanted to highlight that. So, and of course, this is exactly why. That belated schedule and that extra wiggle room is for all of those wonderful things. And as a major plus for it, it allows us to maximize the time to communicate. It allows us more opportunities to send emails, write blog posts, and be more transparent and communicative about what we're doing, why we're doing, and the benefit it provides to our end users. And yeah, a great thing is for those sites that don't have owners, where the owners have disappeared or no longer are with the university, it gives us as much time as possible to nail down where those users might live. So during the archival and deletion phase in spring, we take all those websites that weren't renewed, strip out all the sensitive information on there, grab the site URL, the name of it, the list of owners, and provide it to IT and communication subject matter experts across our campus to quote unquote adopt. Pretty much if a website sees that, or a person sees that that website may be something that they may own or want ownership of, they can adopt it. We can add them as an admin and renew that website. That way, it has an up-to-date ownership for it, and we don't have to delete it. And so ours look like this. Very simple. We've all worked with Excel. Pretty much, we exported that content, added it in, and then provided a field for someone to adopt it. No one took advantage of it, but we provided it there. So back to my point about the differences in WordPress multi-site about archival versus deletion. What we wanted to do was archive the website so that users that logged into the website for the website that they did not renew would show it as this blog has been deleted or archived. Which, what does that do for a faculty member that sees that when they log in to administer the website? Yes, chaos. Yeah. We got the screaming emoji, which is basically what would happen. They'd freak out, send an immediate email saying, where the heck is my website? And that's a great opportunity. So we allowed that sort of fire to be lit underneath the users that did not renew, as well as to allow us to go in and unarchive the website with a one-click solution. It also gives some of the rationale for why you would need to renew your website. And so, yeah, That's what it looks like. And we even provide documentation on what does it look like if your site was archived. Well, looks like that. Doesn't feel very good, but there it is. And then we provide copy communications on, well, if this happened, what are you going to do with it next? Which is contact us ASAP. And so a great opportunity for archival is actually making sure people are still using the website to see if you're actually getting traffic and whether someone within that unit or someone who owns or edits that website is actually using it. No one's editing the website in the 9-month period. That should be concerning. We're also leveraging that opportunity to have those URLs expire and have the search engine optimization that sometimes some users can end up on that website to slowly start to fade away as the access is taken away from that archival. And so a big part of what we did here is communications. And we sent as much communications as we could to the point where we sometimes got some snarky responses from faculty members. But when we're managing thousands of websites like some folks are, sometimes that has to happen. So we focused on 2 communications. 1, individual site owners, and public communications. We managed an opportunity to send email blasts out to every admin hosted on any website on our service that at the end of the email listed all the sites to which they are administrators for. My wonderful counterpart in the Ivan Allen College built a custom little web application that sits alongside our WordPress installation that allowed that opportunity. A pretty quick interface to write an email, send it out to every admin user on our WordPress install that then at the bottom of it listed what the websites they were. We also wanted to do those targeted accounts. Once we have that table data of the sites that weren't renewed, send out individual emails to the site owners and check to see if they actually have real accounts, whether their accounts are bouncing the emails back to our account, which was a lot of what happened. And so since I mentioned the custom application, I want to point out that multi-site in WordPress can sometimes be a little limiting in the kind of metadata that we can get for our individual sites. So my counterpart in Ivan Allen College spent a little bit of time in creating a standalone application that sits beside it and collects a little bit more information. What theme each site is using, how many plugins they have installed, when was the last time they logged in, a quick export that allows us to export all those tables to Excel to do the wonderful emails that we need to do. Basically some quality of life improvements for us from our individual point of contact to do what we need to do. And this allows us to make those bulk emails without having to send it to every single user, admin user on our service if we want to target only the non-renewed users. And so we leverage all site emails pertaining to a very strict schedule. So the initial email when we introduce the renewal process, and then wonderful reminders going out 1 days remaining to make sure that folks understood when the renewal date was and that they were being badgered with emails to make sure that they knew that the process was there. And for non-renewed websites, we did the same thing. So when we were deleting sites, we decided to be a bit more strenuous with it and provide those emails at when we announced the archival process, and then reminder emails at 10, 7, 3, and 1 days for every single website that was not renewed. That means a lot of emails being bounced, but it also provides us that communication strategy to make sure that site owners know that their site is not being renewed and is being deleted. And of course, as part of that, we also maximized a lot of our communication strategies across campus. Georgia Tech primarily leverages listservs and applications like Microsoft Teams to maximize visibility. So leverage those platforms to pass on as much information as possible to a broader community in a collaborative way to share that knowledge and gain anyone that wants to adopt a website, for example. And so I welcome you to go to the Professional Web Presence website and take a look at our blog posts for the last 9 to 12 months. We posted about 4 to 5 times about this renewal process, both from the standpoint of why the heck we're doing this, when the site renewal deadline hit, when we started the archival process, and then what that ended up looking like when we completed that process. And so we archived those website owners, we emailed them, those site owners, once the archival happened, and then those pre-deletion emails happened again, and we use stronger, more aggressive wording to talk about that site's going away. We got some passive-aggressive responses, but it's very important that we do not mince words when we're talking about that data going away forever. So, what do we find through our process? So, for our little multi-site in WordPress, we had about over 860 websites when we started the process. When the renewal deadline hit, we had hit 450 active websites. And so if my coffee-addled brain did the numbers together, that left us with 416 non-renewed websites. You'll see that we had quite a few, 117, without an active user account. This is 4 to 5 years of websites that were built, and every single point of contact for that website has left our institution or no longer has an active email address on campus. Thankfully, almost 300 of those did. So we were able to facilitate a lot of that communication. And then, of course, some weird outliers that I couldn't even tell you about because I did not touch those. So what happened after that renewal deadline between the process and our communications about actually deleting those websites? That number of active websites increased dramatically, bounced back, like after a rough night at bars. So what happened was those 450 renewed websites became 538. After those websites were renewed, people realized we weren't playing around, that we were actually going to delete it, and that they were losing access to the website starting in January. But that gave us the opportunity to delete 328 websites off of our service, which was awesome because that's 328 websites that I no longer have to deal with for the 10% of 2 to 3 full-time employees that are working on this, which for us is awesome. We don't have a database administrator on this. We're running a very lean ship here. So having that opportunity to remove a large amount of websites that aren't being leveraged or don't have ownership there was fantastic. We only had one user that confirmed deletion, swore they never wanted the website, and then emailed us a month later asking if we could undelete the website. That's not too bad.
I'm surprised there was only one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we only had one website owner, which could not believe that they were an admin for a website to which they were an administrator for. That's not bad.
Also surprised there was only one.
There's 2 edge cases there, both of which strong communication and non-mincing words there. Your website's getting deleted. If you don't think you're an owner for it, okay. I can tell you the URL, who's on there, but I can't get them to care about it. So those edge cases weren't that bad, but we also learned from those mistakes as well, which that's not too bad. All things considered, out of all the websites that deleted, those were our problem children with our renewal process. Not too bad. So what does this do for us? Well, it allows our service, who's running on what few time we have between all things Drupal, Drupal 7, Drupal 8, and all the headaches that are coming with that. I'm surprised I still have hair. This is why I'm growing out my hair. It also allows us to remove those websites that are no longer needed, that folks realize they don't really need to have out there anymore, that they may not have realized they could delete. Also, a great fringe opportunity for this is it allows us to self-audit and look at what plugins, themes, and other extra content we're adding in there. As you know, so for a service that's 5 years old, we have some themes that haven't been updated by their theme owners since 2014. And guess what? A wide majority of websites that are using that theme were built in 2014. So you'd be surprised, quite a few of our websites that were deleted were ones that were created in 2014 and never touched again. So that allows us to have a better idea of which plugins, themes, and other add-ons were actually being used by active owners and not just sitting on a stale website that has been lost to the world. And so for Georgia Tech, we're going through a major branding revision. We're changing our gold color. Georgia Tech is the Rambling Rex with Buzz. So we have a gold color that's moving from what we call tech gold, very orangey, to tech gold, very metallic gold. It's a major change. And as part of that, we want to reduce as much orange gold and maximize the amount of metallic gold. So this is great as we're looking forward to those branding changes. That has to happen regardless. but by making sure we have the sites that are actually active reduces the amount of work we have to do down the road for those major digital branding changes. And also, it brings those communications and best practices for our site owners and campus contacts and allows us to build those relationships. Now, our end users know where to find the blog posts about the processes we're working on in the site deletion process. And now they have a better understanding of where to go when they have questions. They're no longer emailing central IT support because we have an email address that goes directly to us, empowers our end users and passes on that knowledge there. So, as I mentioned, one of the things I want to pass on here is that I want to pass on the work that we've done and allow y'all to take that and do something with it, especially for the folks that are running their own multi-sites on campus. It's a great opportunity to do something like this, and we would welcome any collaboration and work that y'all might do. We're as welcome to that as y'all are. So with that, of course, you saw the blog post there. I'll leave that up for a second, but I've got 3 minutes. So does anyone have any questions for me? Oh my gosh, in the front first.
The tool that you use to delete the actual blogs, is that available online?
So the question was, what is the tool that we use to delete the websites? The tool that we used basically provided a URL that just went to the site deletion page for the WordPress multi-site. So our internal tool just basically takes the site ID and then creates a URL that routes to the, are you sure you want to delete this website? For that, that's all that it did. We can share probably parts of that because it is something that's very tied to our service. It's not going to help you a lot for Georgia Tech login to get into that service. But if I can find a snippet for that that allows you to take that, I'd be happy to share that.
You can also use WPCLI if you have the list of site IDs, and that can help to automate things.
Yes, and then, so the comment was you can use WPCLI, which is the command line interface to do it. We are empowering more of our staff that own this service to be more knowledgeable and to understand the benefits of that. And that's something we would love to do down the road, but we're not currently there yet as of the moment. Another question. Yes?
I have one. So the process you described actually has a beginning and an end, and it corresponds to the typical calendar year.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that you chose to do it that way as opposed to like a cyclical year, so that if the site started in the middle of the summer and had a full year of renewal, is it just to facilitate the communication easier?
Yes.
Okay.
And so communication was the primary one. Any site that was built after the point where the process started was automatically renewed.
Okay.
So when we have a new site there, as long as it's there, I believe that plugin has a baby bit of code that does that. I may be lying though. I could honestly be lying to you. I haven't looked at it, and tell you the truth, I did not do my homework before I started here. So if it's not there, that would be something that would be easy to add. There you go. And yes.
Did you have like in a sense, any like breakdown of your trends of the website types that either like were archived and then like no one, there's no ownership of, or that like, oh, you're deleting my site after you've already done it, versus like probably like faculty profiles or labs or student groups, like how did that kind of break down?
So the question was, did we have any breakdown of the types of websites that we ended up not seeing renewed and then deleted? So they came into a couple of buckets. We didn't run a thorough analysis of it, but I can tell you from what I saw, we empowered users to create websites as they needed it. So individual faculty members and staff members would create my name test site. Those websites are likely not going to be renewed. In addition, because we are a primary Drupal campus, some websites started on WordPress and realized we want to do a lot more than that. So they would move on to Drupal, but keep their website there because they're not web subject matter experts. At the end of the day, they see two services that our campus provide and wanted to use both in some ways. And then finally, honestly, a lot of it was individual faculty and staff websites, whether it's for graduate students who wanted to talk about the work they were doing, faculty members who were here for 1 or 2 semesters, or staff members that wanted to test out the service to see how it worked and then forgot about their website. Those are the primary buckets. I think we're out of time. So if you have any more questions, feel free to come up and chat with me. I'd be happy to talk about it, and I'll be here all day today and tomorrow. So thank you so much for showing up.
Awesome. Thank you.